Hello everyone. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Liam and I put out synth and electronic music videos, tutorials, performances, comparisons here on YouTube and other platforms as well. I also put out original music. It's good, I swear. There's a link. So this is a bit of a different video today, and I wouldn't say that it's in response to, but it's definitely inspired by other bigger synthfluencers or synth YouTubers. I absolutely hate both of those terms, by the way. Both Bo Beats and Red Beats Recording just recently put out like a yearly recap and just like their general thoughts on what it's like to be a synth YouTuber. They both made some really good points, so go check out both of their videos. I've had some similar and different experiences, which we'll be getting to today. So this isn't like a yearly recap video. I just wanted to put something together based on the experiences that I've had as a much smaller synth YouTuber than the two ones that I mentioned, Bo Beats and Red Beats Recording. Also an explanation of my journey, how I got here, where I came from, where I'm going. So like the future of this channel, I think that there needs to be some changes. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that you guys just don't see. And so I wanted to shed some light, or in some cases, darkness on all of it. Mostly light though. A big thank you to DistroKid for sponsoring today's video. They are a music distribution platform, and believe it or not, they're like one of the main reasons why this channel has thrived for the past 2 or 3 years. They're also secret / not so secret supporters of this entire niche that is like the synth electronic music gear community. They have helped fund so many creators like myself, so thank you DistroKid. We'll be talking more about them later in the video and what they have to offer. There are no rules. Every single person or creator who is involved in this medium has a completely different experience. I think that's important to take note of as a viewer. I think a big reason for that is because there's just so many different directions that you can go in this. There's so much you could do with a YouTube channel with this sort of platform. And YouTube is just one platform. There are creators who have made it just off of TikTok or even Instagram, although that seems to be a thing of the past at this point. It's not linear. It's not like if you have a certain amount of subscribers on X channel, it's gonna coincide with your salary. It's just not like that. There are so many other factors that determine whether or not a YouTuber can secure an actual career using this platform or other platforms. It's hard. I personally believe that you need like a certain type of entrepreneurial sense on top of whatever it is that you're a professional at or whatever it is that you're showcasing. In this little niche, I find that there are very few artists who are like that, who are that self-motivated to put together this sort of educational content while also putting out music. Like, it's a lot. And for most of us, it's a one-man show. I personally have gone back and forth using editors, but at this point, it's just me. On top of that, you really have to be passionate about the thing that you're presenting, and more you have to be an expert on that very niche specific thing. Like it's such a weird profession, like it's so particular. I'm a perfect example of this. You do not need close to, let's say, 100,000 subscribers to forge a career using YouTube as a platform. I've put together over 200 videos in just over 3 years, and that's something that I'm really proud of. So I'm happy with where we're at there. I feel like I've contributed in a real way to a community, and that in itself, I think is just, it's very fulfilling. It's a very fulfilling feeling. And that's in big part thanks to you guys. You're the ones who sort of help shape the content on this channel. Like, I like to throw out my own ideas, but I'm always bouncing off yours as well. So I like that. And I think that that's another really interesting thing about being a YouTuber. There's this constant back and forth between the creator and the audience, and you're sort of like filling in holes within a niche, and you're doing it together. It's an eternal thing. Like, there's always gonna be new gear and new holes to fill. That's what she said.
Come again? That's what she said? Okay. I don't know what you're talking about.
So why am I doing this? And to me, it's actually really simple. I'm doing this to contribute to something that I'm passionate about, to document my progress in electronic music, which I only started pretty much at the beginning of this YouTube channel, so about 3 years ago, for you guys to learn from. Most of the videos that I've put out and will continue to put out have been videos that I wish my former self had when I was learning a specific instrument, essentially to save time and maybe gain some inspiration. That's how I think when I create a YouTube video. It's also just me, like I'm the one who's presenting the gear, and so all of my experiences are gonna come out in my approach, in the way that I'm showing you how to use any given instrument. Across all of the platforms that I'm currently active on, I probably spend between 30 minutes and an hour just like responding to your guys' comments every day. And I make sure to respond to all of them, whether they're good or bad. And this is a perfect transition for our next topic, toxicity. Hate. This is just part of humans, so it's going to be part of any community. There's no way of getting away from this. There definitely is that circle of toxicity. This is something that Bo Beats and Red Meats Recording both brought up in their videos as well. But also, it's not just the hateful comments. There's a lot to bring up here. We're gonna get to the hateful comments in a bit. I personally find that the community can be a little bit wasteful, and there's a certain like flashiness to YouTube in general, especially within the synth niche. And I think it's definitely the most extreme, if you know, you know, in the modular synth realm. I also feel particularly responsible for that certain flashiness aspect because that's the point of this channel. There's a certain flashiness to showing you new gear, showing you what it's capable of, maybe showing you it in combination with other gear that might be cool as well. So it's just like there's a lot of consumption going on. Maybe a hot take, but for my channel specifically, I actually stopped doing giveaways for that exact reason because I find that they're maybe a little bit too flashy. And I guess the format that I've done them, it's so easy to enter that everyone enters. And the person who receives the synth, like, I'm not even sure if they end up using it, and maybe it just goes to waste. I don't like that. I don't like using a giveaway to like attract people to my channel, even though they might not really get use out of my content, but they have a chance to win something. And a lot of people argue that there's this whole like giving back to your audience notion, but I feel like the content that I create it's given to the audience. Like that's what I'm giving. And I feel like collectively that's a lot more valuable to the community than, you know, giving away one synth to a person who may or may not even actually use it. And then of course there's the person who may not actually be able to afford a given synth, and if they win, that's amazing. I sure hope they're using it. If you like the gear that I'm featuring and the way that I'm featuring it, then watch my content. It's pretty much as simple as that in my mind. And then there is the topic of delusion. This is something that I brought up in past videos. Buying that new synth, it's not gonna make you a better musician. It needs to be pointed out, there's definitely an element of addiction in this industry, which I think is actually okay if it's kept in check. Once you hit that pay now button, it's like serotonin hit that just makes you feel good. And then receiving the box. Sometimes I definitely do feel like an enabler because I've made it part of my job to receive this gear, film it really nicely, make it look very appetizing to you guys to purchase. I could be enabling someone's addiction. I mean, of course, it's still on the consumer in the end, but just give it a second thought before actually purchasing that synth. Do you really need it? Just know that going into it, you're gonna have to put some time into that gear to actually have any sort of command over how it works. I've actually done a whole video on that entire topic. Here it is if you're interested. How I deal with haters. In terms of characters on the internet, which we all see, I definitely see the brunt of because I spend a lot of my day in like forums, comment sections, stuff like that, answering your comments. There's a lot of know-it-alls, gatekeepers, toxicity, hate. There's a lot of hate in this community. There's a lot of hate on YouTube in general. There's a lot of hate on the internet in general. There's just, you can't get away from it. I think that reacting to hate, this might be a hot take, but a lot of it has to do with choice, like how you choose to react to this person. I don't take it personal myself. I understand that these are people that just want to be heard. Honestly, I think that because I'm a smaller channel, I don't experience hate as much as bigger channels in my niche or just bigger channels in general. I've heard a lot of YouTubers having issues dealing with this, you know, that it pries at their soul. I've heard that quite a few times. Being called a shill or whatever name it is. I think it really depends on what you focus on. If you get a few hateful comments, obviously that doesn't represent like your entire audience. I don't think it should represent what you think either. My experience has been a bit different. I see haters as people too. There might be a bit of mental illness there in some cases, for sure. I honestly could not care less about stupid, like hateful comments on any of my own videos. Whether it's putting me down personally, putting down my music, putting down the product that I'm using, telling me how to dress. Yes, that's actually something that men experience too, believe it or not. The people that are making these comments are engaging with my content. They're literally driving other people to my content. And that's what I choose to focus on. We're gonna talk about like ignorant, hateful comments. And there's a common misconception here. The misconception is suggesting that synth YouTubers are paid off shills, as in paid off by the companies whose products we're reviewing. In my opinion, and also my experience of doing this for several years now, this is like a really ignorant comment. That's not the way it works. Obviously, I can't speak for all YouTubers that are in my niche, but I have spoken to a few of them and they have pretty much the same take as I do. I've been doing this for over 3 years now, and not once, not one time have I been paid by a synth company for reviewing their synth. I did almost get paid once, but the company postponed the product release because there were just way too many bugs on the unit. And then they flaked out on me on the actual official release. So I ended up learning, a buggy unit for nothing. So far, in my experience, it's also been the same thing with like pre-released instruments or instrument updates, which in retrospect, I think is actually really unfair considering the following. For a company to send you an instrument that is most of the time buggy because it's an instrument that hasn't been released yet, and to expect you to spend hours and hours learning it, potentially relearning certain aspects of the instrument if there are bug fixes, spending time with company reps to correct any sort of information that maybe you're not clear on, a bunch of emails back and forth, then to actually film and edit, which alone that could be like a 15-hour process, and then release it on a platform that you've been building for however many years, and to not offer any sort of upfront compensation outside of the instrument itself. And a lot of these companies have money, like they're doing just fine. And I mean, it still is a pretty good opportunity for your channel to be the first to present something hype, but looking back at the amount of time that I've spent for these releases versus what I'm getting out of it, it's a pretty raw deal for the creator, because in many cases it costs these companies literally $0 to scout out someone, get them to put together like a full-on review, which essentially acts as an ad for this company's product. Oftentimes brand reps will put out like their own tutorials as well, which is great, but I always wondered, like, are they getting paid for those tutorials? Every company is different, of course. Some are a bit more rigid, some are looser. And based on the conversations that we've had, this is pretty much the same deal that even bigger YouTubers in the synth niche are getting. And this is why I really respect creators like Bo Beats, even the Loop Pop as well. The amount of work that goes into their videos, in their own words, it's not really worth the compensation. And they're doing a huge solid for this synth community. So thank you, Bo Beats. Thank you, Loopop. Thank you, anyone else who's doing day one reviews. As I'm sure you're all aware of, release day or day one is like a YouTube blitz for all these companies. This is just how they advertise now. And so I'm happy to be included in day one content, but I know that there's gonna be much bigger creators that are just sort of drowning me out. And honestly, at this point, I'm okay with that because I've learned that it's a space that I'm becoming less and less interested in just because of the amount of work that goes into it versus what you get out of it. And by the way, this is another argument that I've seen in comment sections. Being sent a piece of gear is not a form of payment. It's just not. It's not even close, and over the past few years, I've quickly realized that no matter how you slice it, it's gonna cost the creator to receive a piece of gear and create content with it. And for me, I've kind of dove into this and I've chosen to do this, so I'm not really complaining. It's just kind of a hard pill for synth YouTubers to swallow sometimes. And it's something that I definitely think viewers should be aware of. But the question that I've been asking myself recently is this model sustainable for the long run to sustain this channel? And I'm actually leaning towards no. And so now I have to follow up on how I actually make money. If these synth companies aren't paying me and I'm not really getting enough views to sustain myself, how am I doing it? I'll give you the entire background. So we're gonna start by how this channel was born. I sort of jumped into this whole thing about 3 years ago, and I went hard like I do with, at the time, basically no like financial security. I've been an informal and then formally trained musician, artist, producer for pretty much my entire life. I've actually never had a job outside of music, performing, producing, and education. The starting of this channel was timed perfectly because it was during COVID. I don't even want to pronounce it properly because you're going to get that stupid message under the video. And my gov was offering a CERB for people who had fallen on hard times. Obviously, there was a bunch of people who couldn't work at the time. And I was one of those people. Thanks, Canada. So I took the CERB for a few months to focus like 100% on YouTube. That being said, I was still like falling into debt for at least the first year of the channel. And that's when Analog Cases, shout out to them for making the best electronic music cases in the world. So they hit me up to run their social media, which I took on for a few months. And then soon after that, DistroKid offered me a sponsorship. As I mentioned earlier, they're actually sponsoring this video as well. And I am far from the only creator in this niche that they're supporting. So all of you at DistroKid, DistroKid, you know who you are. Thank you so much for supporting artists and creators like us. I'm not sure how many people actually realize that they've been like a secret supporter of this niche for years now. I actually also genuinely recommend them as a music distribution platform for independent artists. I mean, should we do the sponsorship right now? We're gonna do the sponsorship right now. Okay, so there's a few reasons why I think DistroKid is amazing. They are on the cutting edge of new social media and music promotional tools. They're the pioneers in that sense because their platform depends on independent artists like us using their tools to promote our music. The amount of stores or platforms that DistroKid keeps track of is insane. And they also keep up to date with smaller up and coming platforms that you might not even know about. A great example of this is myself. So Spotify is not my biggest earner, believe it or not. My biggest earner is actually a platform that's not even available in North America. It's called KKBox. This is obviously a platform that I just did not know existed until DistroKid. So thanks, DistroKid. Before reason 3, I'm actually one of DistroKid's most active creators, and so they gave me this special discount link for you guys to use in case you're not already a member. Banking info and withdrawal is super easy to set up. DistroKid actually delivers 100% of streaming royalties to you. They don't take a cut at all. On top of that, it's $20 a year to release unlimited music to all major streaming platforms. So that's crazy. It's a crazy deal. Independent artists and producers, you know what to do. Back to the video. Outside of this, my other sources of income are selling digital goods, like sample packs. I also make a bit of money off of affiliate links as well. And then there's actual YouTube monetization, which is money from actual views. I also make some money off of royalties from work that I've done before YouTube in the past. I did sing for about 2 or 3 years and composed well over 300 tracks that are living on all these different like stock music libraries at this point. So that's a small contribution as well. There's also Patreon, which I actually just set up today. Yes, I did soft launch my Patreon channel like basically right before filming this video. So that's just an interesting way to offer you guys exclusive content. So go check it out. In the description, I now have a Patreon. It's finally. And so let's talk about what else is new. Changes. The future of this channel. I think it's healthy to take a step back and sort of assess the future, assess the situation that you're currently in, and maybe make adjustments accordingly. This year is looking to be a bit of a pivot for me in some ways. Firstly, and I know I've been talking about this for like months now, I do want to get back into performing. As I mentioned, I've been a performer all my life. I miss it. I want it back again. The whole like dawless / hardware thing that I've been doing for the past few months and will continue to do. I've documented all of my progress along the way. What I've learned is that for an actual live set, it's just too much work to put together a set just using dawless hardware, on top of the goal of documenting the entire process. This isn't to say that I'm like done with reviewing hardware. That is not it at all. It's just I'm gonna be a bit more selective with what it is that I review for my particular setup and my circumstance. This is already panning out to be like the year of hybrid, as you could see in my past few videos. I have a lot of ideas. A lot of the classic like established gear is compatible with Ableton, so that's sort of an avenue that I would love to explore a bit more. I also just picked up the Model 1.4. It's rocked my world. Here is a video. It's rattled everything. I am completely obsessed with it at this point. I actually come predominantly from a DAW background. These past few years have been very hardware oriented, but the Model 1.4 sort of just makes that connection so perfectly because I'm able to route directly out of my DAW. I have that certain like hardware feel of the mixer. And then of course, using something like Ableton is just the most efficient way of putting together a live set. It's just the easiest, quickest way of doing it, and that's where I'm at. So as I mentioned, I'm just gonna be pickier. I most likely will not be doing any more day one content unless it's something that really excites me. I want this channel to be inspiring and more about making music, more so than like, oh, here's this flashy new gear that's maybe not as efficient as something else that I own. This has kind of been a natural direction and transition that I've been going into anyway, so here I am announcing it. In case you haven't noticed, maybe you're new here, I am in a completely new studio and I love it. So much space. It definitely needs a few more baffles, which are on the way. I'm gonna be keeping it quite minimalist. I just have like a desk here and a desk in the back and some gear on the side here. That's it. I've actually already booked some one-on-one lessons with you guys as well, so that's something I'm going to be offering moving forward. And it'll be something that I'm officially advertising on my website probably within the next week or so. And I'll be putting it in all the descriptions of my videos as well. There's also gonna be like a one-on-one discount thing tied into the whole Patreon deal. So I'm figuring that system out. In the meantime, if you're interested, join the Patreon. And if you have any questions or comments about that, by the way, just let us all know in the comment section. I will be getting back to you. I'm actually already doing some stuff outside of YouTube as of this year as a result of what I've learned on YouTube and other platforms. I'm currently running Moog Audio's TikTok channel. They are a Canadian-based audio, DJ, and synth gear retailer based in my hometown in Montreal. And I make lots of TikToks for them, several a week, and it's basically all involved in the shop, basically all of the gear that they have to offer. And that's actually a service that I'm open to offering to other related companies as well. Because I do have a pretty strong and like relevant content system across several platforms. So yeah, something I've worked on over the past few years. I'm also working on an online course which will be different than the content that I offer here on YouTube. This is something that I was actually working on last summer, but I just got swamped with so many other things that I didn't really have the time to put my full efforts into it. It's essentially a course that will give you all the ins and outs, the system that I built over the past 3+ years to sustain myself as an electronic music YouTuber or content creator, whatever word that you want to use. And it'll essentially contain marketing information for anyone who's in a related niche. So anything artist, music production, music performance related. There's a lot of like conceptual encouragement, like motivational courses out there, which I think do have their place if they're done well. And there of course will be some encouraging, positive information to empower someone to put out content, put out their art. But at its core, this will essentially be like a hardcore information course and an outline that I've used on how to market yourself across social media. And I should stress this organically, you wouldn't have to do any sort of ads or anything like that. I've never done ads for my YouTube channel, so that's not what the course is about. I myself have also taken some online courses, and it's the sort of thing where you're listening to someone more experienced than you, and you pick out little parts of their experience essentially, and you apply them to yourself to save time. Like that's the crux, that's the point of the course, to save you time. If you have any questions or comments about that, please let us know in the comment section as well. At this point, it's not really in the cards, but in the distant future, I'm looking to post less on YouTube, maybe post more informative, like deeper content, but less of it. And so that's the direction I'm going in. I can already feel it's gonna be a great year for all of us. Thank you guys so much for being here. That's the lowdown on what I'm up to. It's a lot. My plate is full. Hopefully there was some information in this video that's helpful to you and what you're doing in your life right now. A million thanks and hope to see you all very soon, wherever it may be.